Hey everyone, what is going on? It is episode 15, and today we're going to add some detail view from our API that we created in episode 14. We're going to consume that data from the API and show it off in our web page in MVC. So let's get started right now. Let's jump into our Visual Studios with our UI and API project. If you need the code for today's example, you can find that on github.com/noblecausecode. And if you don't know how to get the code for the current episode, check out the video short on Git and how to download code for this episode. Last we looked at our API, we have a controller that will return a single product. And so we're going to go into our UI project. And I think the first thing I want to do is I want to rename this home controller because it's not really a home controller. It is a products controller or a products view. I think the menu we want to use is going to say products anyway. So I'm going to right click the file here and do rename, and we're going to rename it from home controller to products controller. And would I like to also change the references that use that name? Yes, I would. So that'll change that to products controller. It'll change the constructor to products controller, and the iLogger had a reference. So all that's been changed. The things that haven't changed though are in my views. The folder is home, so that needs to be renamed as well. And that would be products. And that is a convention that will automatically be looked at with the products controller looking for index inside products. I'm going to run my API. Let's run our UI really quick and see where we are, and then we can make some changes. I know what the problem is. So we broke something. And I bet if I go to products, it will work fine. So the reason is because it's defaulting to the home controller, and we covered that in a previous episode. But if we go into our startup file here, I'm going to have to hit stop. And we go all the way to the bottom, we can see that if we don't specify a controller, it's going to use the home controller. Well, we just renamed that to products. So if I run that now, we should be fine. All right, so we want to rename this link home, which is going to /home. So let's change that. And that is in our shared folder in the layout, which is like the shell. So that has our nav bar in it and stuff like that. So if we look at the nav links, we want to go to the products controller index, and we want it to say products on the screen. All right. And so let's go back to the root page here. There we go. And now it says products, and when we click it, it just goes to products. All right. So we're almost there. So what we want now is when we click on the title or maybe the image in the title, that we want to go to a new detail page. So what I think we want to do is we want to have a product detail page. And I think we can have the products controller handle that, because the products controller is all about products. And the detail of a product still is products related, so we should be able to leave it in there. We may want to split it out later if this gets too complex, but for now I'm just going to go to the views products. I'm going to right click and I'm going to add a new view. So we'll choose the razor view instead of the empty one. That'll fill in some stuff for us. And so the view's name is going to be product details. We will do empty without a model for now. And we will use a layout page, which is in our views shared underscore layout. And then we'll click add. If that took an unusually long amount of time, that is normal, unfortunately. I don't know why it takes so long. It's usually faster the second time, but not even always. We can change the view data title to product space details, and we can leave the layout alone. Now we're going to have a model that we add to this page, but we haven't created the view model yet, so let's wait on that. First thing we want to do is be able to route to this page and see this product details when we click on a product link. So let's go back to the products controller and let's give it a new action to return the product details page. All right, we gave it an iAction result. We'll have to make that async because we're going to call out to a service. So let's make that async and wrap our return type in a task. And now we can make asynchronous calls out to our API. So the first thing we want to do is create our view model. And the view model is going to be a different view model than our products view model, which currently is called home view model. So we'll probably change that. And we'll just, we haven't created this yet, so it's not going to know what it is, but I'm just going to type in new product detail view model. So let's go and rename this home view model. So let's go into view models, home view model, and I'm going to select that. You can either do a right click and rename, but it's also Control RR, rename. I don't know. So I just do it that way. And then I'm going to hit the left arrow, highlight home, and just type products view model and hit enter when I'm done. And so that just went through the whole project and renamed every reference. You can see it's only used once, and we can click that and jump right to it, and you see that it renamed it where it was used. And then in here, we're going to return our view. You can see on these overloads that it'll take a model, it'll take a view name, or a view name and a model. That's the one we want. So we're going to give it a string with product details. That's the name of our CS HTML file here under views product. So product details, and then we'll want to also pass the view model. And so calling this product details controller will return that view, and that view gets passed its view model. The view model is empty right now, and it doesn't even exist, so let's create that next. I'm going to copy that name, right-click View Models, Add Class, paste, and there is my view model. If you want to see the other view model, all it is a simple class that has what we need in it. Well, what we need is a product. So if I go into product detail view model, I can just make it is of type product. Now product is not in scope yet because of our using statements. So if I just hit tab now, it's going to replace that with product details view model, which is not what I want. So I'm just going to hit escape once to close that and hit tab again. And the name of my property will be selected product. And then I'll hit enter because I'm done. And now I can hover over here and bring in the using statement for the models. And now I can return a product. I can Control RG to clean this up and get rid of the unused using statements. All right, back in the product details, back in the products controller, now we have a product detail view model, and we can create it and pass it in, but there's nothing populating that individual product. Our product details needs to be passed the ID of the product that we want to look up. So in our API, you know that we put a route statement with our route path, and then we just put our value in here. And yeah, that's not how it works in MVC. We need to access the extra parameter at the end of our route. Well, we already have that pattern put in our endpoints by default. Remember that our pattern is controller/action/ some variable we're going to call ID. And that's arbitrary. You can change what that name is. And the question mark means it's an optional thing. There may just be a controller/action. We'll always have at least that. If we don't have either of those, we'll default it to products and index, but we'll always have something there. And then we may or may not have / and then some value. So in our case, we're going to have the product/index. So it'll be product/index/ and then the ID of the product we want to see the details of. So since that's already wired up for us in our products controller, we can get that through our request object. So anytime you request a view from a web server or from MVC in this case, you're making a request to the server and you get back a response. Well, part of that request includes browser headers and any other headers that you put in, and any other details like routes and query string arguments and post bodies, and there's all different stuff in the request that we can have access to. So what we really want to do when we click on one of the items is we want to navigate basically to products/ product details /5, right? So that would be, we just want to grab that 5 out of the route, out of the header. So we do that by accessing the request.route values. Route values is a dictionary object made up of keys and values. So we just have to give it the key of what we're looking for, and that key is ID. We know it's ID because that's the name that we used here. So it'll grab anything after that / and it's just going to call it ID. Now that's going to come through as a string because everything in the route, in the URL, is a string, and we actually want the ID as an integer so that we can pass it to our service to go get our product details. So I would say before we go reading this and converting it to an integer, why don't we make our service that is going to receive the request and call out to our API. So just like before, we have our product service. I'm going to go into the interface and I'm going to create a service method that gets a product by ID and it returns a product. So it's going to return a product, but it's going to be asynchronous. So it's actually going to return a task of product, and we'll call it get product by ID, and it's going to take in an int ID, and that's it. So we're good to go there. Now we can go into our service. We can implement our interface once it realizes that things have changed. And instead of throwing an exception, we're going to now call out with a return await products repository, but we don't have anything in that products repository other than get products. So we have to create that next. So let's go to our repository, do the same thing, right? I'm going to return a task of product, and we're going to call it get products by ID. It's going to take an int as the ID, and then I'll go into the actual class and implement that. And I'm just going to copy the call out to our API, and we'll modify that call a little bit. This time we are calling out to our API. We're not calling API products, and we're not returning a list of product. So we're going to return just get JSON async of product. And so that's good. Why? Oh, you're complaining because I'm using await and I have not made this method async. All right, we don't want to call out to API products. If we look at where we left off on our API, we want to call this API products and pass the ID. So that's going to look like API products 2, let's say. So I actually want this, and I want to put the ID here, right? So we're just going to use some string interpolation with a $, and then in our curly braces, we will put the variable ID. So it's going to call out to our local host 44328. We'll worry about making that less hard-coded later. And we'll call out to API products and the ID, and we will return the product back to the service. The service needs to also be async before we get that error. And then we can call get products by ID and pass in the ID. And so now that will send it back to the products controller, the products service dot get product by ID, and we want to pass the ID in here. So we need this code that we started to work on here is going to create the value. So if I just say var ID is equal to that, we just need to convert this to int32, and we're not getting any help from IntelliSense because we don't have a using system up here. So we'll add that. Convert is under the system namespace. So now ID is an int, and we can just pass that ID. Well, this call needs to be, it's awaitable, so it needs to be awaited, and it's going to return a product. So really, we want to just say await and get the product. So we can combine these two. I don't need this ID variable and then use the ID variable in here and never need it again. I can just take this expression right here and just put it inside here and get rid of that completely. And we can get rid of these parens and make them curly braces, and we can initialize the selected product equal to, and we can just grab that value and stick it there without using a product. So just same code, just a little easier way to be able to read it. Okay, so now we have our view model. We're passing our view model with our selected product to the view. So let's go into our view and tell it that, hey, you have a model, and the model is of type products view model. Doing too much Vue.js there. Will it give us IntelliSense? It will not, but we can go into our, because it's a product, details. Product detail view model. Should have probably named that details view model. It still doesn't see it though, so I'm just going to grab the namespace and tack it onto the beginning. And now it sees it. All right, so anywhere we use capital model dot, we will have access. All right, so let's replace our product details with our model dot selected product. Oop, it does. I hate that it does this. When you hit model dot, it shows you the next thing, but if you hit enter or tab, it doesn't keep the dot. I don't know why. Oh, you got to hit tab, not enter. So model.selectedProduct dot, let's just put the description here for now. And let's run this. Make sure your API is still running because our repository is going to call out to our API. And there were build errors. Yay! So we don't want to run it. It says it doesn't know what home view model is in here. What is this? This is a .g.cs file. So I think what we need to do is build clean and build solution. Still doesn't know what that is. Let's look at the other error. So it does not like these it does not like these .g files, which are generated. We can't even change these. Okay, I was able to find this just by looking around the project, and it seems that there is an error in this CSHTML file, and it still says home view model. So we caused ourselves some trouble. And let's see if that fixes everything. It did. So that one was tough to find. I actually had to stop things and look for it, but I just stumbled across it looking through everything that I had touched. I knew it had something to do with a rename, so I just went through all the files that I had built in this project and had a feeling that it was not in a CS file, so that kind of narrowed it down. Normally, if there's a CS error, it's going to give you the actual error. All that .g.cs stuff is all compiled CSHTML stuff. All right, so let's try running it now. So we never put our clickable link here, but we can go directly to products. And we'll just do like 2. Okay, so we are pulling the actual value out of our model. So now all we got to do is fill out this page to make it look nice. We're going to, in our H1, where we're going to not put the description, we'll put the title. And then after that, we want to put our image. So image source equals, and that's going to be from our model.selectedProduct dot image. And it'll complain if we don't put an alt tag, and that's going to be the same thing. Actually, let's put the title in the alt. And that's just for if you're on a device that doesn't show images, or browsers for the blind and things like that, or just things that don't have a way to navigate around. The alt tag will tell you what was normally there, even if you can't see the actual thing. And so there's our image. And then let's, below that, we'll just stick a div in there with our model dot selected. Oops, I did it again. Model dot selected product dot location, and we'll put another div. We'll make it look nice in a minute with the model dot selected product dot price, and we'll have to format that price again. And I guess at the bottom we need some kind of a button. And I know the bootstrap class for that is btn-success. We'll make it a colored, I think, green or blue button. And then we'll just put buy it now or else. All right, so let's save that and let's see how that looks. All right, we're kind of getting there, right? We got a title and the image and where it is, the area, and the money, how much it is, and we can buy it now. Woo! Okay, let's hook up from the previous page. We know that we have to call that in order to get to here. So if I change this to like a 3 now, hey, look at that. Okay, so we're looking good. Let's go back and add that link to the title here. So we will go back to the index.cshtml where we laid out all of our cards. And what we're going to do is we're going to surround our title with a link. So there's a bunch of ways you can do this. You can do an ahref and actually put in an ahref tag with the URL in here. MVC gives you some helpers, and I'm going to show you one of those that just kind of makes things convenient, I guess. So let me just put some space so you can see it in here. But we're going to do an @html dot, and we're going to use an action link. And an action link takes in the link text, so whatever you want it to say, and then the action name is the name on the name of the action in the controller. And you can also pass it a controller name. The text that we want to click on is actually already right here, right? That's that @product.title. So we'll leave that, and then we'll do a comma. And then we want to tell it the action, which is, if we looked back in our products controller, the action is product details. So product details in quotes. And then the name of the actual controller is products, right? Products as in the products controller. And then we just close the parens. And what it'll do is it'll just take that and turn it into an href for us. But sometimes it's easier to just say, this is what I want to click, and here's the action and the controller. I always thought that these should be the other way around. Why wouldn't you put controller action? That's the way we write controllers, but they are always backwards where it's action controller. So let's take a look at our web page. So now you can see that they're all links, and I don't know if you can read the bottom over here when I hover. They all just say product details, product details, product details. Well, that's not what we want. We want to pass the ID of this link. So if we look at the rest of the overloads here, in addition to the action and controller name, we can give it a route value. And so we're going to stick on the end of this comma, and we're going to make a new anonymous type. So this is just using new, and we don't have an actual model. We could create a model and put a model in here, but since this is the only place we need it, we can just open up some curly braces. Oops, it put string in there. Don't want that. So we just put our object here in curly braces, and we can now kind of use dynamic properties. So I just want to add a property called ID, and I want it to be equal to this product. So I can just do product dot, and I can add the ID in there. And so let's now see what that does. If I refresh. Now when I hover, I get products, product details, /2, /3, /4. So now if I click watch, I get the watch. If I click the Doge, I get the Doge. All right. So far so good. Now what we got to do is we got to make this page look like something. So first thing I want to do is I want to put this into a flex box. If you don't know about flex boxes, then you should watch the video short on flex boxes in the card above. So here in our product details, I am going to start with a div for our flex box. And because we have bootstrap, we will be using their flexbox classes. Dflex just is display flex. So we want the flex direction to be a row, and I want to justify content center. I want to center everything on the page, and I want to align items, center as well. So let's grab all of this, and I need to put all of that inside a div as well. So let's put that inside there, and let's see where we are so far. So now we move things over to the center. That's looking a little bit better. But what we want to do now is we want to stack these items inside another flex box. So we're going to make another flex box. The flex direction is going to be column this time instead of row. And I want to align the items in here to the center. Let's take a look at that. So that's looking a little bit better. And let's go ahead and also put some padding on it. So we'll use the P2 size from Bootstrap, and that kind of centers it off a little nicer. Let's go into our image, and we'll add some classes to that. We'll do a card image top and card image. Can't really see much there. We need to format our price like we did last time. So we are going to do an @string.format, and we will put a C2 for currency there, and we will pass it. Oops, I'm doing this in the wrong place. Meant to do that down on the price. So comma and then the price, and that should format our string format. Oh, we're missing that guy. So let's see how the price looks now. Should change from 200 to actual currency. Nice. Let's put the price into its own div. And we'll put the button in there too, just for the heck of it. And so we'll make this a new flex box. Flex column. align items center. So that'll just stack those two. They already are stacked, but we can line them up no matter what size they get. And then let's add some padding there. Cool. And let's make that price bigger because it's kind of hard to see. So instead of a div, let's make it an H1. Let's make it nice and big. There we go. So that looks okay. Looks a little better when there's not white in the background here, like the dog. It looks like there's a big gutter there, but it's just because the pictures are big. So I think that's good enough for now. We've kind of got a working site here that is making round trips to the API. I think the next step is to plan out our shopping cart and replace this hard-coded data with a database so that we can start creating add items or add products pages and edit pages for when you want to make changes to your items for sale. Maybe you want to make it cheaper or more expensive. We can store all those in the database, and we can add some search capabilities so that we can search the database and only return the items that we're searching for. We also can create a My Account page where we can show you just the items that you've put up or that you've purchased. So we've got a lot of things to add to this, but our basic flow is here. We are able to create a website. We can talk to our API to return data. We can drill down into our items and see the details of that item. And I think that's a really good start. So I'm not going to say exactly what we're going to do next because I have to really plan this through to make sure that we're not going back and forth. I'll have an answer for you on the next episode when we start, and we will jump in then and make those changes. So I will push all this code up to the repo and go ahead and pull that code down, play with it, make changes to it. Try changing some colors, try changing whatever you want. Maybe you don't want it to display as cards, you want it to display as a grid, or you want to make your own Flexbox and not use Bootstrap. Whatever you want to play with, go ahead and do that. That's what will make you a better developer. Don't just follow what I do. Be inquisitive and try to make changes, break things, and then learn how to fix them. That's the magic of being a developer. So as always, practice, 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 and I will be sure to see you soon, and we will do that online.